stretching from the Hejaz Mountains to the silver edge of the Gulf. The Arabian Peninsula shelters within its sands a riddle of unimaginable scale, one that seems to ripple through time itself and bend the laws that govern the cosmos. In 2011, deep beneath the deserts of the United Arab Emirates, researchers uncovered evidence of human life reaching back some 80,000 years. More recently, in 2024, a small figurine emerged from the soil of Kuwait, a serpent-shaped being with human traits, hauntingly similar to relics discovered in Iraq more than a century before. Over the skies of Bahrain, luminous forms once moved in silence during the early years of the 21st century, while far earlier, in 1583, a single tree was planted in the desert and has refused to die ever since. Woven together, these fragments form a single thread, a hidden tapestry that challenges both history and science, whispered across generations as the anomaly known as the Garden of Eden. The purpose of the press conference was simple: to share news of two discoveries that could alter everything we know about the Arabian Peninsula. The first concerned an immense, dry riverbed stretching from the Hejaz Mountains in the west to the distant shore of the Gulf, some 850 kilometers of vanished waterway. In March 1993, a geologist from Boston University called an emergency briefing. His name was Farouk El-Baz, a scientist once linked to NASA, whose work had shifted from studying the moon to studying Earth. While examining satellite images of Kuwait's deserts, scarred by the conflict of 2 years earlier, he noticed a pattern hidden beneath the dunes, an immense channel extending for more than 500 miles, carved long ago by flowing water. El-Baz proposed that this ancient river might point toward vast underground aquifers capable of transforming the future of the Gulf states: Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, Oman, and the United Arab Emirates. Yet not everyone saw it through the same scientific lens. Some biblical historians believed the feature corresponded to one of the legendary rivers described in Genesis, the Pishon, said to nourish the cradle of humanity. If that interpretation proved correct, then El-Baz had not merely uncovered a forgotten river system. He had revealed what might be the most significant archaeological clue in history: the possible location of the Garden of Eden itself. This episode unfolds in 2 parts, each offering a distinct yet converging vision of what the Garden of Eden may have been. The first presents the Gulf Oasis hypothesis, a theory proposing that the entire basin of the Arabian Gulf was once a fertile plain where rivers flowed through lush valleys and life flourished long before the sea returned to claim it. The second reaches further into the metaphysical, suggesting that Eden might have existed both as a tangible place and as a parallel reality. Its presence echoed across dimensions, anchored to the same ancient land. Together, these ideas form a remarkable narrative that the Gulf region could represent not only the cradle of human civilization, but also a scientific and spiritual intersection where memory, myth, and matter converge. Within its deserts and coastlines lie the echoes of faiths older than written history, traditions that predate the Abrahamic religions, yet speak of the same paradise, of mysterious visitors, and of an enigmatic race described in Mesopotamian lore as the Anunnaki. Beyond the boundaries of the college, the search for Eden has long extended across continents. From Mesopotamia's fertile plains through the mountains of Iran and Turkey, the rivers of Iraq, and as far south as Ethiopia, Egypt, and Sudan, countless theories have emerged. Some even stretch the imagination to distant India, or, according to a few unconventional groups, to Missouri in the United States. Assuming that Eden was indeed a real place in Earth's deep past, the first body of evidence arises from geology. In the book of Genesis, a single river nourishes the garden before dividing into four: the Tigris, Euphrates, Pishon, and Gihon. Modern satellite imaging has revealed ancient channels beneath Arabia, among them the Wadi Batin, believed by some researchers to correspond to the lost Pishon. The Gulf Oasis hypothesis gains strength here. Between roughly 7 and 6,000 BCE, sea levels were far lower, and the area now known as the Arabian Gulf was a vast, fertile plain threaded with freshwater springs. Oceanographic surveys have confirmed the existence of ancient aquifers beneath the seabed, consistent with a drowned landscape once rich in life. Archaeology provides the second strand of evidence. If Eden marked humanity's earliest homeland, it would have left traces, villages, sanctuaries, symbols of faith. Those traces have begun to surface. The monumental complex of Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, Neolithic communities in Iraq and Iran, the Bronze Age civilization of Dilmun in Bahrain, and remarkable discoveries across the Emirates, including Jebel Buhais. Beneath the sands of Abu Dhabi, scientists have mapped buried river systems, channels that once carried flowing water. At Jebel Faya, stone tools dating back nearly 125,000 years have been unearthed, while ancient cemeteries at Jebel al-Buhais reveal settled populations more than 7 millennia old. When assembled, these findings lend powerful support to the Gulf Oasis model. They suggest that the paradise described in Scripture was not a walled garden suspended in myth, but an entire ecosystem, perhaps even a civilization, lost beneath the rising seas of prehistory. The next chapter leads into more speculative territory, exploring interpretations that, in part, resonate with elements of Islamic cosmology. These perspectives propose that the civilization once thriving in this region may not have been entirely bound to our physical reality. Instead, it could have been linked to a vast extra-dimensional realm through what some describe as a thin place, a rare point where worlds might touch. Among the most compelling physical traces supporting this vision lie within the island nation of Bahrain. Before venturing into those possibilities, it is necessary to return to firmer scientific ground. The evidence suggesting that the Arabian Gulf itself could have been the stage on which the Garden of Eden once stood, or a place remarkably like it. The Gulf Oasis theory, formulated by archaeologist Jeffrey Rose, identifies several key factors supporting this idea. First comes location. Extending beyond Mesopotamia, the theory places Eden within the now submerged plains of the Gulf Basin and the surrounding edges of the Arabian Peninsula. Second, the environment. During the Ice Age, when sea levels lay far lower than today, a broad and fertile plain stretched across what is now open sea, green, watered, and eminently habitable. Third, archaeology. Finds across the United Arab Emirates, Iraq, and Bahrain indicate a network of ancient communities that flourished around this oasis long before the waters returned. Fourth, the flood. The story of the prophet Nuh, known in other traditions as Noah, may echo the submergence of this world when the rising seas consumed the basin. Fifth, the water sources. Several major rivers once converged here, many of them named in the Book of Genesis. Along with hidden aquifers, they would have created one of the most fertile landscapes on Earth. In 1993, Farouk El-Baz, the former NASA scientist who identified the buried river system beneath Kuwait, stopped short of linking his discovery to the rivers of Eden. Yet others have drawn the connection. Geologist Carol Hill has noted that at least 2 of the 4 rivers mentioned in Genesis, the Tigris and Euphrates, are verifiable waterways that emptied into the Gulf, their dry channels still traceable today. El-Baz's ancient river, the proposed Pishon, would represent a third. Hill suggests that this correspondence implies the biblical author described a genuine landscape, one that once existed almost exactly where the modern Gulf lies. Genesis speaks of a single river watering the land before dividing into 4, a description aligning closely with the pattern linking Kuwait, Iraq, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates, whose archaeological record continues to reinforce the Gulf Oasis model. Yet among all these nations, one may hold the missing piece, the link connecting measurable geology and archaeology with the region's most enduring myths. Bahrain. Ancient Sumerian tradition placed the deity Enki at the center of humanity's earliest creation stories. Some scholars have observed that his narrative overlaps with that of the Anunnaki and with the later biblical tale of Eden. This concept, part of what became known as the Paleo-contact theory, proposes that extraterrestrial influences may have shaped early civilization and belief. The idea first surfaced seriously in 1954 and gained prominence during the 1960s. Its most controversial expression came in the 1970s, when writer Zecharia Sitchin claimed to find evidence of alien genetic engineering within ancient Sumerian texts. His work has since been widely criticized for lacking scholarly rigor and for possible fabrication. Yet later authors, among them Paul Wallace, have argued that modern institutions suppress evidence of such encounters. Proponents point to monuments such as Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, along with other prehistoric sites across the Middle East and the Americas, as remnants of this hidden history. Whether such claims hold truth remains an open debate for another time. What matters here is not how early humanity may have been touched by the unknown, but where those traces converge. On August 11th, 2006, 13 years after El-Baz's announcement, Bahrain once again drew attention. That evening, the Gulf Daily News published accounts of unidentified aerial phenomena observed above the Sitra Causeway. 7 witnesses, including a visitor from Pakistan, described a luminous object, first green, then turning white, before vanishing into the clouds around 7 p.m. The event lasted only seconds, yet it reignited fascination with another of Bahrain's enigmas, the Shajarat al-Hayat, the tree of life. This solitary tree, rising from barren sand without a visible water source, stands as a scientific anomaly. Despite exhaustive study, geologists have not agreed on how it continues to thrive where every other plant withers. For more than 4 centuries, it has survived, inspiring local lore that its roots reach beyond time itself, perhaps into the Garden of Eden. Tradition also associates it with spirits known as jinn, believed to dwell among trees, while others claim it is protected or cursed by ancient powers. Most intriguingly, witnesses of the 2006 sighting reported that the luminous object appeared to hover directly above the tree before disappearing into the night sky. Whether coincidence or connection, the tree of life endures as Bahrain's most mysterious landmark, a living symbol that binds together science, legend, and faith. In its enduring branches, the many threads of the Gulf story converge. The lost rivers, the drowned plains, the voices of ancient gods, and the quiet persistence of something that refuses to die. For decades, scientists have wrestled with the mystery of how Bahrain's tree of life endures. Some propose that its roots reach an underground aquifer nearly 2 miles away, though no study has ever verified such a connection. Others suggest that it draws moisture from the air itself, or even from the desert sands. Yet, none of these explanations account for why no other tree of the same species has managed to survive under identical conditions. This unresolved paradox is one reason the tree, despite being roughly 4 centuries old, remains entwined with far older legends. Many link its existence to the ancient Sumerians, and by extension, to the mythic Garden of Eden. In the previous episode, we revisited Enki, the Sumerian deity, long associated with water, fertility, and creation. Some later interpretations portray him as a fallen celestial being. Others, more fantastically, as an extraterrestrial. Historians, however, regard him simply as a mythological figure, one reflecting early humanity's reverence for the life-giving power of water. Within Mesopotamian belief, Enki governed the subterranean oceans that nourished the earth, a role that naturally tied his name to the tree of life's seemingly immortal resilience. According to ancient texts, Enki dwelled in Dilmun, a radiant realm described as free from disease and death, where fresh water flowed eternally from the ground. Its description bears an unmistakable resemblance to later depictions of Eden, a perfect land untouched by decay. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, archaeological evidence began to reveal that Dilmun was not mere myth. Excavations across Bahrain uncovered monumental structures, burial mounds, and trade artifacts dating back to the 3rd millennium BCE, unmistakably connecting the island to Sumerian civilization. As discoveries continued through the early 21st century, the finds became so extensive that UNESCO designated Bahrain as one of the world's most significant heritage regions, a landscape whose human history reaches to the dawn of recorded time. Here, amid ruins older than memory, and beneath the shadow of a tree that defies death, the echoes of myth and history converge. Whether or not Bahrain was truly the cradle of Eden, it stands as a testament to how legend and science can intertwine, reminding us that humanity's oldest stories may still have roots buried in the sands of the Gulf. Among all the figures entwined with this story, Enki remains the most complex and, to some, the most dangerous. Depending on interpretation, he is seen not only as a mythic god of Sumer, but as something far stranger, a supernatural presence, a reptilian-like extraterrestrial, or, according to some theorists, both. Within this framework, the broader Anunnaki pantheon is viewed in a similar light. Certain Christian interpreters identify them as angelic beings that turned against heaven. Advocates of the Paleo-contact hypothesis describe them instead as an advanced, non-human civilization, with Enki as their leading figure, a being whose lineage, they claim, may still persist today. If Enki represented an intelligence beyond humanity, then to the early Mesopotamians, his science and technology would have appeared divine. Vessels capable of crossing not merely space, but the hidden corridors between dimensions. Fringe research groups, such as exopolitics, have speculated that the Gulf region itself rests atop an interdimensional gateway, perhaps accounting for the region's unusual density of unexplained aerial sightings. From Iran and Kuwait during the 1970s and 1980s to more recent discoveries of Ubaid period figurines unearthed in Iraq in 1919 and again in Kuwait in 2024. These artifacts, portraying serpent-faced or alien-like beings, have long fueled the notion that Enki and the Anunnaki were not symbolic, but literal. Taken together, such theories recast the Garden of Eden narrative in unsettling ways, not as an allegory of creation, but as a record of contact between worlds. In this view, Dilmun, the paradise linked to Enki, was both the cradle of humanity and the site of an encounter with beings from beyond Earth. While mainstream scholars firmly dismiss these claims as pseudo-scientific, the persistence of serpent imagery, from Mesopotamian figurines to the lore surrounding Bahrain's tree of life, keeps the association alive. The same motif recurs throughout human culture, most famously in the story of humankind's beginning, the serpent in the garden. Though such ideas fall outside accepted scholarship and rest on speculation, they raise a broader question about humanity's ancient intuition of the divine. Nearly a century ago, the Sufi philosopher Abdul Wahid Yahya wrote of thin places in the world, points where the boundaries between realms grow fragile. He believed one such threshold lay in the northern Gulf. If places of that kind exist, then Eden might not have been a garden confined to geography, but a borderland between planes of existence, a landscape both physical and transcendent, connecting the terrestrial and the celestial. Under that vision, Bahrain's tree of life, thriving without clear explanation, could be understood as a living remnant of such a threshold, a node existing on a quantum level where time, matter, and consciousness intersect. It becomes, in this light, less a miracle of biology than a symbol of continuity between worlds. Proof, perhaps, that the sacred endures beyond comprehension. When reconsidered through the Gulf Oasis hypothesis, the idea that the entire Gulf, what we now call the Gulf Cooperation Council nations, might once have been Eden, gains an added layer of meaning. Pre-Islamic Arabian mythology offers no direct counterpart to Enki, yet several southern Arabian deities echo fragments of his nature. Al-Muka, associated with irrigation; Atar, linked to rain; Anbi, guardian of water and law; and Wad, whose emblem was the serpent, all mirror aspects of the same archetype. Viewed together, they suggest a gradual transformation of memory. If the Gulf Basin truly formed the heart of that vanished world, partly submerged beneath the sea, partly existing beyond it, then the essence of Enki may have survived not under a single name, but dispersed across cultures, each preserving a reflection of his power and his story. The debate over Eden's true location may never be resolved, yet the notion that it once existed somewhere within the Gulf has left a lasting mark on the cultural and spiritual identity of the region. In Iraq, a revered site known as Adam's Holy Tree, or the Tree of Knowledge, continues to draw thousands of pilgrims each year. Many follow a lesser-known interpretation within Islam that regards the place as one of divine blessing and forgiveness, where prayers may be answered. Although most Islamic scholars maintain that Eden lies in heaven, or an unseen dimension beyond the physical world, this singular tree has also drawn Christian visitors who believe it to be the very tree described in Genesis. For a brief moment, beneath its branches, faith traditions meet in quiet coexistence. The tree once stood alone between the Euphrates and Tigris rivers. In 2005, Iraq's Ministry of Water Resources allocated 6 million dinars, about $5,000, to preserve the site and transform it into a place of pilgrimage. A bilingual sign now marks the area, declaring that the Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him, once visited it 2,000 years ago. Farther south, in Bahrain, the legendary Tree of Life continues to defy logic by flourishing amid a desert devoid of any visible water source. Yet its greatest challenge has not been nature, but humanity. In recent decades, urban expansion and easier access have brought waves of visitors, some of whom left carvings or burns upon its trunk, acts tied to ritual or curiosity. Recognizing the tree's importance, Bahraini authorities encircled it with protective walls and pathways in 2013, safeguarding one of the Gulf's most enduring natural enigmas. Together, these trees form a living bridge between myth and history, science and belief. They stand as symbols of endurance in a landscape shaped by time, faith, and the desert wind, a reminder that whether Eden was ever real or not, the longing for paradise remains deeply rooted within the human spirit.